Once again, and we're going to pick up right where we left off last time, which last time we were talking about 2-5-1s and various substitutions, and then this time we're going to talk about the diminished chord, which is the magic chord on the guitar. And the first thing we should know about diminished is that it's movable by minor thirds. Okay, and you've heard this, right?
I've heard this.
You know, and the thing about it diminished is, and you almost need to do this for yourself. I'd suggest you do this when you go home. Get a piece of paper, pick a diminished chord, it doesn't matter what it is, and write down every note. So we got an E, we got a B flat, we got a C sharp, and we got a G. And then move it by a minor third, and write down every note. We got a G, we got a C sharp, we got a E, and we got a B flat. And so you'll find that when you do that, the notes are all the same. So every note, they're all the same notes.
It's magic.
It's magic. It's magic. So, and that means that this chord could be named by any note, you know, and it's still a diminished chord. And there's a cool thing about diminished that I stole from Pat Martino out of his book, which is very dense reading. But if you take a diminished chord and lower any note in it by a half step, you have a seventh chord.
Wow! Now that is
it is news to me. It is big news. It is big news. Wow. So let's start with this E.
So wait a second. So you start with.
I'm starting with the note on the G. I'm sorry, the D string.
Becomes a.
That's an E flat. The name of the seventh is the note that you lowered it to.
Gotcha.
So if we start with this note, this B flat, lower it. You got an A7.
Got an A7.
Which tells you, well, that's a cool thing to know. But the big important thing is that there's a really, really close relationship between a seventh chord and a diminished chord. There's only one note difference between the two.
Interesting.
So that tells you that over your dominant chord of your 2-5, there's a diminished right there, somewhere ready for you to use it. And it turns out that it's a half step up. Well, there are a bunch, but the easiest one to see is a half step up from the root of the 5 chord.
Okay.
So in this case, if we're in the key of G, got an A minor, and over the 5, the root is a D chord. So if we go up a half step. Right up there, yeah.
Wow.
And again, we got that voice leading thing happening there with that.
Yeah, yeah. I can hear that a little bit.
And the cool thing about that, you take that, okay, so I know now I can substitute a diminished chord a half step up from the root of the 5 chord. And I also know that diminished chords are movable by minor thirds.
Right.
So I could go.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, I can see that.
You can, and you know, you can start searching. Okay, if I do that, there's a G somewhere up here. I should be just it's right there. You know.
Yeah.
It's a good way to transition from down here to up here. It's diminished chord.
What other chord shapes do you use for diminished?
Okay, so let's start with that's a good one. So this is an E flat diminished. If I want to go this way. And that's worth spending some time doing, so those just come naturally. Okay, here's my diminished chord. I've got my first and second fingers on the 4th and 2nd strings, 4th fret. And I've got my 3rd finger on the G string, 5th fret, my little finger there on the E string. Use that as my guide. I'm going to go down a minor 3rd to there. And this chord, the way to think about it is start with a D7th. And just add that note right there on the A string. And I'm going to use this note as my guide and go down a minor 3rd to this diminished chord. So I've got this first finger again borrowing the D, G, B strings. This third finger goes in on the G string. It's on the 8th fret, and my second finger then goes on the E string, 8th fret, and you kill the A string. There's a million things you can do with just that information right there, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of jazz right in there.
Yeah, definitely. What about a diminished scale?
Diminished scales are difficult. Diminished arpeggios are not quite as difficult.
Okay.
So I find that it's a lot easier to use arpeggios.
Okay.
You know, and a diminished arpeggio is really simple. It's minor third upon minor third upon minor third, you know. And it turns out that it's just like, you have to think about it just like the diminished chord. We said we could substitute a diminished chord a half step up from the root of the 5 chord.
Right.
I can also start a diminished arpeggio there. So if we're doing play like a simple slow 2-5-1.
Okay.
I'm just playing a G major scale here. That's Django in a nutshell. And the way a good way to get this to think about this is that if those diminished chords are movable, then where I start this is also movable. Because this scale, this arpeggio, really, if I had an infinitely long, infinitely wide fingerboard, would go the same pattern over and over and over.
Right.
So I said you could start it there, and you can, but you could also start it there. You could also start it there. So it's worth going through and figuring out on every string, where's my transition point? Where could I start a diminished scale? Does that make sense? So play a 2, 5. I'm going to figure out for the E string first. So I have 2 notes there I can start on.
Okay.
So I could go. When I go to the 5. Or I can start here, it's the same thing. On the A string, we've already figured out it's there. One way to think about this is I'm in the key of G. Got that little G scale. When you go to the 5 chord, I can go down a half step and play my diminished arpeggio.
A half step from
the root.
So the half step down from the root
works.
Is going to get you
a whole step up from the root works.
Yeah. A whole step up. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Whole step down from the 3rd works.
And you're basically playing this over the 5 chord as a substitution.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right.
And you, even though you may be playing the 5 chord, I can substitute a diminish on the solo, and it works just fine. Excellent. So there's lots of places to get cool things out of this. You know, there's cool little patterns. You know, that's just that diminished arpeggio. You know.
Excellent.
Okay, so that's diminished in a nutshell.
All right, that's a lot of stuff to work on.
It's a lot of stuff, yeah.